run.
How's it going, guys? And welcome back to Park Lane Podcast for your eyes on this Sunday. And it's Sunday in nature today because it is absolutely sweltering. I don't know how everyone else is feeling, but I'm not built for this weather at all. But one thing you will notice from today is obviously the absence of Luke. He's been on a self-inflicted stag do and didn't want to come on today. Let's just be honest. I'm just going to out him straight away. I'm going to throw him under the bus. He did not fancy coming on to help us out, but look, we will rock with what we've got, and what we've got is obviously an amazing panel as well. So, Callum, how are you today, mate?
Mate, I'm the same as Luke, but mine was from driving. I am shattered, but I at least turn up to cover Luke's arse. So he owes me a big one on that one. So I will be sending him a couple of requests for different things in the future.
Yeah, and an invoice as well for your appearance today. You know, that's what I'd be sending straight to him.
Oh, I love £50 a minute. That'll go down really well for his business, won't it?
And Wes, how are you, mate? Are you good?
Yeah, all good. Loving life. Obviously, the sun's out and everybody's in a much better mood when the sun's out. Euros in full swing now. I've been really impressed by the Euros. But it's always nice to be talking Tottenham. Looking forward to this one for sure.
Yeah, it's weird, isn't it? Obviously, because the pre-season kind of episodes are always a bit weird because we're talking about transfers and stuff like that. There's nothing really concrete to talk about, but obviously we will just try and address as much as we can. Obviously, first things first, obviously we are sponsored by Manscaped. For those of you that don't know Manscaped, just go and check them out on manscaped.com. Get your anything from shavers to ear and nose trimmers. You can get some kind of moisturizers and deodorants and anything like that you want. So if you do that, go and check out manscaped.com, and in the checkout use ParkLane20 for 20% off. That is ParkLane20. And obviously, if you are watching, make sure you subscribe to the channel. It makes a huge difference. And obviously, like and subscribe as much as you can, as much as you want. And obviously, tell your friends and family to do the same. So obviously, this is about a Tottenham episode today in terms of transfers. But obviously, let's address the elephant in the room. And that is obviously the Euros. Callum, just talk me through England so far. What are you thinking? How's it going?
Usual boring Southgate stuff, to be honest. It's as you guys know, I'm not a big fan of Southgate. I think that no matter if he was a defender in his club career, he can't defend a barn door, let's put it that way. It's been a frustrating couple of matches, let's put it that way. We just scraped through against Serbia. We got shown up big time by Denmark, and we was lucky to come away with a draw from that. And there's definitely a lot of questions over fitness, the crap that he said about we haven't replaced Calvin Phillips. Well, he weren't doing nothing for us at all. It's about people stepping up to the plate. And unfortunately, a lot of these guys aren't doing it. And if we don't win against, Slovenia Tuesday, there's a good chance we could go out. And you just think, seriously? We've got one of the easiest groups. We haven't even got a group of death. We've got a group of quite nice fixtures. So if Southgate stays after this tournament, then Jesus Christ, what's going on?
Yeah, it does. I'm obviously, everyone's seen beforehand. He kind of said if we don't win the Euros, then he's going to kind of part ways with England, which for me personally would probably be the right thing to do because I think he's kind of run his course now. So just touch on that, Wes. What do you think? What do you think about Southgate?
I think, look, when he got the job, I think the way that the country viewed the team wasn't the greatest. I think he's done a good job in uniting everybody, getting everybody on side. But I think, look, I think I read a stat earlier with the expected goals for England, and it's like 1.5 something. Yeah, we've got Harry Kane, Bukayo Saka, Phil Foden, Jude Bellingham, and it's like, how are you not getting a tune out of these attacking players? And the amount of really good, exciting attacking players that we've got is absolutely baffling. I think the the Trent experiment hasn't worked
Yeah.
at all. He's looked really out of place. So yeah, I just don't think that's what I think. The Luke Shaw gamble hasn't paid off at all. Like, we haven't seen him, and it looks like he could be out of the game on Tuesday as well. So it's almost like, what's the point? I think coming into this tournament, Southgate made some really bold decisions in terms of selecting certain players, and we were all excited by that. But then he's left some out because of fitness, yet put some in, but they're not 100% fit either. So it's like, what are you trying to do? For me, I think Adam Wharton's got to play. As you boys know, I've been a massive fan of Adam Wharton for a while.
You love him, mate. You love him.
Yeah, he's absolute quality. And I think genuinely, I was watching the Denmark game, and I think I said this on another show. I think if England had Michael Carrick in midfield on Thursday, you'd have seen a completely different game. I think Wharton's probably the closest player that I've seen in recent times to Michael Carrick. And just in terms of getting on the ball, but making us play at our speed and our tempo. Like, he can quicken it up when he needs to, but he can also slow it down when he needs to, which is also a big thing, especially at the top end of football. Like, you're going to see it. You'll need every team, especially in European competitions, has a player that is able to do that at some point. And I think the higher up you go, the more key those types of players are. But yeah, I just think the balance of the team isn't there at the minute, and it's showing big time. And how can you come into a tournament with, like we mentioned, all these attacking players, and still look like you could not score in Amsterdam? Like, ridiculous! It's ridiculous.
It kind of shows the Trent Alexander-Arnold experiment hasn't worked.
Yeah.
The Trippier experiment at left back hasn't worked. The idea that Foden is going to do anything, he's had about 4 poor games now, even in them 2 pre-friendlies that we did in the build-up as well. There's a lot of people that either shouldn't be starting or should be given a chance over some of these people. Trent is a right back, shouldn't even be there. Foden, more of a 10 than a left winger. It does us no favours, but when you've got Bellingham, then that's so hard to do. He's taken a lot of players who are very similar to each other who do the same job. And when you've got Cole Palmer on the bench, I mean, we don't want to sing the praises of Chelsea lads, do we, as a Tottenham podcast, but he is a very good player.
Very good.
He could do something else, but then you've got someone like Grealish who hasn't been taken, who does play off the wing now, which is atrocious. I don't think Maddison would have done much, to be honest, different this tournament, but someone like Grealish, like Brathwaite as well, just gives us more stability. And taking someone like Tyrick Mitchell maybe as a left back who could have done something. When you've got Chilwell and Shaw out as your 2 main options at left back, playing Trippier there when he wants to cut in is ridiculous. He just wants to cut in onto his right foot. He can't play left-sided. So if you go into Conts as your next sort of idea for it, but he don't want to use him, there's no stability in that team. And even Kane is showing that he was purely injured at the end of the season, and that's why he missed the end of the Bundesliga. Realistically, yeah, you take him because he's your captain, but I mean, when Watkins came on against Denmark,
he doesn't look sharp, does he, Kane? It's as simple as that.
Kane's just doing what he does always. He drops deep. When the team aren't doing nothing, he drops deep to try and make something happen. The problem is there's no one ahead of him to make anything happen. And if he does drop deep, we've got no focal point up top. And when Watkins came on, it actually looked different. But when Conor Gallagher is coming on, I can see why so many people don't rate him as a player. I don't think he's actually done that much to change anything. He hasn't done anything different to like what Walton could probably do, what Eze is doing in the centre of the park as well, because Gallagher has came on as more of an advanced player and he's winning fouls, that's all. And to be honest, we ain't got anyone who can really take a set piece apart from Fred.
And that is the problem.
And after time, when we're in set pieces, is when Trent has been hooked off, when realistically he should be playing right back. But then when you've got Walker, and I think Walker's your favourite, isn't he, Wynnie, in the league at the moment, apart from Porro and all
He
that.
is, yeah.
It's
He's first ahead of
so
ahead of
difficult.
Porro, but not too far ahead.
But even Saka's been quite good in the last 2 games, and who's the one player that's been hauled off before Foden? And you're just like, what the hell is going through Southgate and Steve Holland's mind and all that? Because at least Saka is doing something. It might not all come off, but at least he's trying to make inroads. And Foden's there for nearly I think he must have got about 150 or 160 minutes across them 2 games. He's been about as effective as a chocolate teapot in this heat. He doesn't do enough for England compared to club level. And maybe that's because the players around him don't suit the way he plays, or whether it's Southgate's negative way of playing. But it doesn't do England any favours. And if we come up again, like, I think, if we come second, we get Germany or something like that in the next round.
Yeah, our route's definitely more favourable if we win the group, that's for sure.
Yeah. If not, it is literally we are going to get tanked by the Germans and all that.
Yeah.
Literally, it's going to be that bad. And I mean, what's their aggregate score? Like 8 or 9-1, something like that.
In all fairness, though, I do think they've had. I'm not going to say an easy group, but I think their group has definitely had a couple of teams in there that you are, if you are on your game, you are capable of tonking them. But that's by the by. We've got that in our group, and we haven't been doing it. But I think for me, it just seems like square pegs, round holes. That's what it seems at the minute. Like we've got a right back playing in centre midfield. We've got a Foden playing ineffectively on the left wing, and we know we know he doesn't work there. For me, there's a simple solution, and if you really want to play Trent, you can drop him to right back, but I wouldn't drop him for Kyle Walker, as we know. And just drop Bellingham a bit deeper, which we know he can do. Get Foden in the 10, and then look at all this exciting talent we've got that can play on the wings. We've got an Eze, we've got Cole Palmer, we've got all these exciting people that can play out there. Just get them out there. Drop Foden where he's more natural. I remember, obviously, against Denmark, people were talking, and it's been quite a talking point of where Foden picked the ball up massively deep and just ran with it. It reminded me of like what Gaza used to do. And he just ran, ran past about 3 people, and he could have squared Kane in. Fair enough. That's the kind of still image that's going around Twitter at the minute. That might have changed the game. It might not. But stuff like that, like there's playing where he is more natural. We know he can do that. And just utilise all the, other attacking talent we've got. But Wes, I'm going to come to you. I haven't really been able to watch too much of the Euros. I don't know if you have yourself. But I just wondered if you had found any standout players, not Tottenham specifically, in general.
I've been fairly fortunate. I've managed to watch quite a bit of the Euros.
It's a good question to ask you then.
The players that have really stood out to me, it's going to sound a bit Gale cliche as I like to say, but Lamine Yamal and Nico Williams, for me, the 2 Spanish wingers.
Yeah.
The thing for me is they are almost what you would argue nowadays is a bit of a throwback. They just want to get the ball and just run at you. Yeah. And I think nowadays, especially where you see a lot of players playing on the opposite side to their strong foot, they don't necessarily have the pace, but they just want to come inside and look to combine with others. Whereas these 2 just want to burn you to death, and they just want to religiously just come at you. And they are both absolutely rapid as well. Yeah. I think if you're a fullback and you see one of them, you're going, oh mate, I'm in for a long one. I think Doku as well. I've been a massive fan of him for a while, but watching him, he's a frightening winger, Doku, because he's got the ability and capability to go both ways, and again, so quick, and he would just get the ball and just like, right, I'm going to beat you. I'm just going to beat you. That's his mindset. He might not do it every time, but he's got that mindset of, okay, every time I'm picking up the ball, I'm going to be positive. I'm going to drive at my opponent. Those 3, I would say, have been the real sort of standouts for me. I think, obviously, from a Spurs perspective, we can look at Radu Dragusin, and especially in the game against Ukraine, he was an absolute monster.
It's had a good tournament so far, let's say.
Yeah, it's one of them where you go, where was he when COVID was coming in? Because he would have blocked that, that's for sure. He was blocking everything else that day.
It's crazy.
He's from a Spurs point of view. Obviously, I know we don't have many in the in the Euros this time round, but I think Dragusin has stood out. To be fair, best to seen Højbjerg play for a while was against England. I genuinely thought Højbjerg was brilliant against England, and I'm going, where on earth has this been? Not only for the season just finished, but even a couple of years before that, you're going, this is a completely different player.
Yeah.
And then it starts to tweak, the penny starts to drop. He's playing for a move. So
100%.
yeah, that's probably what I'd say from a Spurs perspective and then a non-Spurs perspective.
Well, talking about transfers, let's just park the whole Euros talk and get into what we've come here for, and that is Tottenham Hotspur transfers this summer. So obviously the title is Big Summer Ahead. And for me, I really, really echo that. I think this is huge for Tottenham Hotspur to really progress. I think we've got a decent foundation now. We've got, in my opinion, a manager that I trust and I believe can take us to this next level. But we kind of just need these other pieces of the puzzle to kind of help us on that journey. So let's strip it back from front to back. So obviously, I think the imminent departure now of Emerson Royal, it looks that way anyway to AC Milan. Callum, glad to see the back of him. What we saying?
He's one of them people that definitely plays with his heart on his sleeve and all that.
I like that.
He gives his all. He's a good character. He's positive. He's one of them guys that you want around the training ground because he'll be a good laugh. He'll be a good part of the squad, all of that stuff. But he was signed as he was signed as a fullback, and then he was converted to a wing back. Now he's been converted to an inverted wing back. He's probably had 6 managers since he's been here. He's never really been the fancy of any of them, I would say. He definitely, if he goes to Italy, it's probably more, or specifically Milan, it's probably more suited to him as a player, to be honest. And I mean, everyone saw his compilation reels when he first came over here. He looked like a baller and everything like that, and everything was hunky-dory. He got, 3 games for Barcelona, then got told, right, you're out the door, we're taking 25 million. And everyone saw that article from Matt Law where they said that Barcelona transfer directors were laughing, thinking, how the hell did we get 25 million for him? And he stepped up with some good games. He's proven that he's versatile. He's proven that he can do stuff. But I think the time has come where if we can recoup 20, 25 million euros, I think that was the original fee. If we can get even close to that, I think, go. Thank you very much, Royale. You've had your time. Yeah, everyone loves you. But for your career and for Spurs' progression, I think Milan's probably the best option for you. And if it's to be believed from sources, it's been going on for quite a few weeks now, hasn't it? It's been ping-ponging. Spurs want this, Milan want to pay this. An agent's got involved, and then they've gone, right, we're maybe coming towards the end of it now. And he's actually spoken out about it. So it looks like the Spurs are probably giving him permission to actually say stuff at, I don't even think he's at Copa America, is he? He's literally just sitting at home. So he's probably sitting at home playing PlayStation or something like that and doing articles on Zoom. You never know. But if he has been given permission by the club to speak to Milan, it means that at least there's an idea that they're coming close to a valuation agreement. And he can start discussing permanent terms. So, good luck to him. I don't think anyone's going to begrudge him to go, to be honest. And he is a likeable character. He's a good lad. And even after all the crap that we've given him as fans over the years, I think we should let him go for at least something to get some money in, because we need to build an Ange squad, don't we?
Yeah, exactly that. And that's, any kind of money in now is important, and it's quite interesting. You touch upon the whole likable character and really someone in the dressing room that kind of brightens the place up. Now, I think that is important, especially the squad, as big as it is. But do you think Emerson Royal is worth keeping for that, or would you be like, right, see you later, mate, get out?
I think we've had these types of sentimental players before, and it always appears that they are never the greatest player within the team or the squad. If I think back to Emerson Royale being one, Musa Sissoko being another one, I think we all saw that from the Amazon documentary. So it's like, okay, yeah, you're good for the dressing room and you have, quite a standing within the group, but let's not piss about here. Like, we're here on a mission, and Ange's on a mission to be successful at this football club. So he needs who he believes is going to do the best job for Tottenham. And yeah, I don't think Ange really sees Emerson as part of his plans anyway. It's more of a case of he's had to use him because of the injuries that we've had in the back line. But yeah, he's almost like one of those players that you wanted it to work out because we've seen all the compilation videos and all of this kind of stuff. You wanted it to work, but yeah, then there's question marks of if he's actually bloody Brazilian half the time, with the way that he does play. So yeah, I think it's time that we moved on from Emerson Royale, and I think it's one of them, like a thank you for your service, but like kind of, on your way type of thing.
No hard feelings kind of thing.
No, it's not every move for every player is going to work out. It's
Absolutely.
it's never going to be the case. But yeah, I just think in Emerson's case, he definitely needs a fresh start. We need to move on from him because we need better. And I think he needs to go away and perhaps refresh his career, so he can try and kick on and get back into the Brazil squad for the upcoming World Cup, really.
Yeah, of course. No, and that's sometimes players have to put that kind of sentiment aside, and even fans, we have to remember, like, he wants to get back in his national side. He's got these tournaments to play in. A footballer's career is short, and they need to make the most of it. So that is important. So another kind of departure which looks imminent, but it's kind of taking some chops and waves in different directions. Now, I'm a huge fan of this guy, and I'm quite intrigued to hear what you guys think. Now, Joe Rodon. So, yeah, it's the reason why I say that is I think he's got all the makings of a great centre back. He's good with it, like, in my opinion. Again, feel free to pick apart anything that I say. I think he's quite capable with his feet, which is important, especially in an Ange kind of system. He's just fearless. He'll throw anything in front of anything. Like, he's not scared to get in there, almost like John Terry used to be. Like, he wouldn't be scared to put his face on the line. But I'll stick with you, Wes, because obviously there was talks of him going back to Leeds and sticking there, but that kind of looks as though it's collapsed now. And the kind of latest emerging transfer is to Southampton, with a potential swap for a Carlos Alvarez, I think it was his name, or Alcaraz or something like that. Now, the reason why I'm saying that, to be fair, this is open for both of you, but obviously I'll stick with you, Wes. Do you know anything about this Alcaraz? Because me personally, I don't have a clue.
I think just on Joe, I think he's been really unfortunate at Tottenham. Like, genuinely, really, like, he was almost the fall guy in terms of, we needed a centre back at the time. We all know Mourinho wanted Skriniar. He's ended up with Joe Rodon. But then actually, when he did play in a Spurs shirt, I actually don't think he did that bad. I don't think he did that bad. I think everybody kind of remembers the mistake that he got away with it away at the bridge and stuff like that. But it's like, okay, he's got away with it. Like, leave it. And then, I think there was perhaps one game against Liverpool, can easily happen for a defender just to lose sight of the ball. And I think Mane went and scored or whatever. But I think by and large, he's been all right. He's just, again, one of those that's just been really unfortunate with the state that the club's been in, where it's just been chaotic. He's got caught up in it. And I think there's been a few other players that have been caught up in it. And unfortunately, he's one. But I was speaking to a few fans who are fans of clubs in the Championship, and obviously they watched him a little bit last year, and he strikes me as almost like, and they sort of said it as well, like a head it, kick it type of centre back, which is a bit of a throwback in that sense. And then actually with the ball at his feet, sometimes can be a little bit panicky. So yeah, he's a bit more of a sort of head it, kick it centre half. So you'd need somebody that's a bit more composed and a bit more calmer next to him. But in terms of Alcaraz, I think, he did okay at Southampton when he came in. I think he came in the January of the year they went down, and he did all right. But obviously Southampton then obviously went down, and there was talk of him leaving, potentially going to Juventus, I think, even at one point.
Yeah.
He did. He went on loan to Juventus for the last 12 months, Alcaraz.
I've honestly never heard of him, and that's probably obviously you guys play Football Manager and stuff like that, so you will probably know more. But I genuinely don't know. I don't even know where he plays. That's
one of my best. A couple of my best mates are Saints fans, and they say he's quite a technical midfielder. He has different aspects to his game. He's sort of a box-to-box midfielder type.
Okay.
He doesn't really set the world alight, to be honest. But it could be one of them under the radar signings that come in, like Sarr, like Udogie, people like that who could be moulded. He's still young, I think. I think he's only 24, 25. But going on what Wes was saying about Roden, and obviously David Clark said about potentially Leicester could be in for him. I know that quite a few of the promoted clubs and some of the lower level clubs are looking at him as well. And I mean, Joe was kind of the victim of that club signing idea, I would say, because if you think that summer it was Mourinho wanted Skriniar. We had all the pictures of Steve Hitchin out in Milan doing his meetings, everything like that. And it turns out Daniel Levy was in Swansea at the time while Steve Hitchin was trying to do that. And the problem is it comes into that same scenario as like Jed Spence. It's one of them where if you can't get what the manager wants, you get offered a player. Maybe they kind of fit a profile within reason, and they work. But most of the centre backs in the Premier League now are ball playing centre backs. They're not that gruff, ball heading, old style, going to boot you up in the air type. And that's unfortunately what Joe is, because I mean, when you think he's played alongside Ashley Williams and people like that in the Wales setup, a lot of them are going to be that sort of ilk within reason. And I think when you compare him to Romero, Van der Ven, Dragusin, even Dorrington and Phillips as our fourth and fifth choice at the moment, and even Davis within reason, they're all that sort of, they can play with their feet, they can get around people, they can do stuff. And Joe doesn't really fit the style that Ange wants to play. And unfortunately, he's just been a victim of so many regimes going on, club signing. And if we can get, say, 15 million for him, or if he can be used in a player swap, then it's positive, because then at least you can get a profit, or you balance your books with it within reason. Because I mean, how many loans has he had now? He's been to Rennes, to Leeds. I think a couple of seasons before that as well, he must have had a couple of loans. So he's been unfortunate going through the club in a time of turmoil, and he's unfortunately a victim that he's going to definitely end up being a victim with less than 20 appearances for Spurs, something like that.
There's only so many times can go on loan, isn't there? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I think it's quite interesting, Wynnie, as well, that Southampton is the club mentioned, because they've just spent 20 odd million on making Harwood Bellis's loan permanent from City.
Right. Okay.
And then if you add in, I think there's Licano that might be leaving, but then there's like Salisu and Bella Kotchap and a few other centre backs that they've still got there. So it's like, okay, interesting that Southampton are potentially looking to obviously sign two centre backs in the same window, considering what they've got in the building, unless they're trying to move either Salisu or Bella Kotchap on. Then that might make a bit more sense. But I think they've obviously still got Bednarek as well, I believe. He's obviously playing for Poland at the Euro, so they've got numbers there. It's not maybe obviously the quality perhaps that they would 100% want, but they've got players in that position already. So it's interesting that they're in for Roden. Maybe a Leicester or somewhere else,
something like that.
Yeah, potentially. I mean, we don't know what sort of moves Ipswich are going to seriously make. I don't know if they're going to try and go for it in the same way that Forest did. I know they're getting bitten on the arse with it all now, but they had a real go, Forest, didn't they, when they first came up? Or are Ipswich going to try and play it a little bit more conservative, perhaps in a similar way to what Luton did, or are they going to sort of be in the middle ground? So yeah, I do envisage Roden moving on. It's just a case of when and not if, and then also potentially where he goes as well.
Mm-hmm. I just feel like he may be one of these players that kind of sits in the cusp of being probably too good for the Championship, but not good enough for the Premier League. Because I know a few players, unfortunately, have kind of fit in that. For me, someone like Tom Carroll, you know, when he was back in the day, when he was kind of emerging onto Spurs' scene, and then kind of didn't really kick off a bit. I feel like, and then obviously he went to Swansea and was like unreal, kind of, you know. And he's had other little moves, and he's like, I think he's one of these players that kind of just sits on that cusp.
Mate, you just described the whole of the Norwich squad of a couple of years ago. Literally too good for the Championship, but as soon as you come up, you're fucked. You're going back down.
It's just what happens. Some players just can't for whatever reason, and maybe it's because the jump is bigger than we think. You know, for me, it's only one division, but maybe the actual the ability you need to be able to perform is greater for the Premier League. I don't know what it is, but I think so. What I want to say is one thing that I have written down, and it's obviously to do with another potential departure. Now, it was only rumours. I don't know how concrete it was, and that is obviously Christian Romero to Real Madrid. Now, Callum, talk to me. We can't, can we?
From what I've heard around the club, it's a non-starter. What doesn't help is that literally when he comes out and says, "Oh, I look at all offers," but from a Spurs point of view, they're going to want to recoup all their money. So I think his transfer was
and more
2 million plus add-ons. So that's rising to 50. If you look at the prices being requested for centre backs at the moment, Brathwaite 70, Lenny Euro 65. You're looking at 100 million, something like that. The Spurs would even look at to even consider it, and he's not even in his prime yet. So from a Spurs point of view, it's a non-standpoint. The reason why I think they came out, and they weren't Spanish sources, they weren't English sources, they was Argentine sources. So there's a good chance it was an agent of Romero's or someone close to his agency who he's linked with going, look, we got 2 years left on our contract. You need to get your checkbook out saying, well, you just paid 5 million to end on Belay to bugger off. So, and he was on 200 grand a week. Maybe I should be pushed through. So I think it's more a tactic to get Spurs to open up their purse strings a little bit and offer a new contract. Because the only thing that concerns me is that if he gets to next summer, you're going to have a position where he's in the last 2 years of his contract. And that's when you could have a Barcelona, a Real Madrid, a PSG, a Bayern sniffing around. So this is the prime opportunity for them to offer him a new contract. I think it was agent talk, to be honest. And at least with there's some credibility to say, yeah, he is a good defender compared to Radu's agent who can't keep his mouth shut at any opportunity.
These agents are doing my head in, let me tell you. There's too many outspoken ones. That's the problem.
Well, apparently it's the agent and the partner now saying about Napoli scouts and all that. I'm just like, where do you get your facts from? Where do you even get this? Yeah, I think with Romero, though, it's definitely a bit of brinkmanship trying to get Spurs to come to the table to give him a new contract because he's, 25 now, going to be 26 soon. I think he definitely deserves a new contract compared to if Spurs get 100 million offer and they go, right, we're going to sell him, because then it's literally just same old Spurs. And he's spoken heaven and earth about Ange, saying he loves playing for him. He loves his partnership with Mickey. He wants to keep progressing. And when you've got a World Cup winning centre-back like that, if you build your team around him, then that's great. Because if not, then you're just literally developing a player for another big club to nick again.
Yeah. No, I know. And I think for me, like, and again, I've talked about our defence. I genuinely, although obviously we have shipped some goals and some very, very silly goals. For me, if I look at the ability of our defence, obviously Van der Ven, Romero as a partnership, that's got the potential to be one of the best in the Premier League by far. And obviously a really exciting Destiny on the left-hand side. And for me, as we know, Pedro Porro, such a huge fan. I think his technical ability for a defender is insane. And he can actually defend. He may be suspect a few times, but he's got it within him to be able to defend as well. But Wes, let me put this hypothetical situation in there. Let's say Real Madrid come knocking, yeah, and Daniel Levy goes, do you know what? I can't refuse 120 million for Christian Romero. Who do we replace him with? Do we look within the club for Dragusin, or do we look elsewhere? I wouldn't know what to do.
I think we shit ourselves. He is one of those. He's one of I think Cootie's one of them that is almost like indispensable at the moment. Obviously, massively key player in terms of what we're trying to do, what we're trying to achieve as a football team and as a football club moving forwards. The centre back market as well isn't necessarily the greatest either. So Callum saying there about the price of centre backs, your Branthwaite's looking at like 70 or 80 million, Lenny Yoro 65. You look at Todibo at 40. So the market for even a half decent centre half isn't
bloody Max Kilman from Wolves. Apparently they want 45 for him as well. They signed him from Maidenhead for 400 grand.
Yeah. So this is what we're dealing with here. So I think you would probably say, I mean, the way that we obviously recruit now is a little bit different. We're a lot more data heavy, a lot more data driven. But if it was me, I'd probably look at maybe someone like De Bast from Anderlecht, a good young promising centre half. We'll get Superjan in his ear at the Euros, if need be. And obviously Jan can speak about his experience at Tottenham and stuff like that. So yeah, I think De Bast is probably one that screams out to me at the moment. But for God's sake, just mate, if anybody comes in for Romero, just lock him in a room somewhere.
Yeah, just let's lock him away for the summer until the window closes. If we need to do that and he misses a couple of games, because I'm not sure what the window situation's like, let's just do it. Lock him away.
Wes, I'm sorry to burst your bubble. De Bast ain't going to be available either, mate. He's going to Sporting.
Oh, brilliant.
Max Kilman or Lewis Dunk? How does that sound?
Christ, if we get Lewis Dunk, mate, we're going to be dunking down the Premier League. That's for sure.
I mean, we're in trouble if we get Dunk.
Yeah.
It's got to be. I mean, you always hear about the lists. It's Brathwaite, it's Mark Gahey from Palace. But
I've been impressed. I'll be honest. I've been impressed.
Yeah.
I wasn't a huge fan of Gahey and particularly the price tag that came with him. But do you know what? After watching him, obviously it's only 2 games in the Euros, but I've been very, very impressed. And I think, if we were, I can see why loads of clubs are linked with him. And if we were one of the clubs linked with him, I'd be satisfied. But I can't see anything like that happening with, obviously, we've got Radu in the wings waiting to come in as well. I don't think Gahey's going to go, do you know what? I want to sit on the bench as well.
And I think as well, for me, Gahey prefers to play as a left-sided centre-back. And obviously then he's competing with Van der Ven, who you would argue he's not really going to get in front of. I mean, the absolute dream is Matthias de Ligt, and there's rumours that he might be available at Bayern Munich. I mean, watching him as a 17-year-old centre half in that Ajax team was ridiculous. But yeah, I personally didn't believe he would be available for Bayern Munich, but there has been rumours coming out in the last few weeks and months that he potentially could be available because they want to change something within their back line. I don't think their centre backs are good or half decent centre backs. I say half decent because they've got Eric Dyer, but I think they want a little bit more pace. I think in their back line, so I think that's where those rumours have potentially come from. But yeah, like I said earlier, just lock Romero away and give him some meat, chuck some meat in or something when Real Madrid has gone away, just to keep
keep his protein levels high. He'll be ready for the start of the season then, and he'll be in a Tottenham shirt. But I think one of the big talking points, obviously, I know we kind of talked about. Well, I know Callum definitely mentioned it, and I think it's an important one to talk about, and that is Conor Gallagher. Now, my 2 pence worth, I don't necessarily think he's worth the money that's being touted or what the money would be to acquire his services. Wes, do you think he would add a lot of value to Tottenham? From a tactical point of view, what he offers, would that benefit us?
It's a difficult one because do you take the England Conor Gallagher where he's Jordan Henderson 2.0 and runs about a little bit, or do you take the Chelsea Conor Gallagher who actually looks half decent and could potentially add something? I think he's, like I say, he's sort of caught in that well, he's going to come on and run about a little bit at the minute for England, and he's really good at pressing. Well, flipping hell, he should be. He's a professional footballer. Effectively, he's good at running. Like, do you know what I mean? They all do enough fitness testing. They should be half decent at running, to be fair to them. But
till
yeah,
that's
I think
a Southgate in England, mate. Till that's
the Gallagher. The Gallagher situation for me has always been an interesting one because I'm kind of on the fence with it. Like, if he turned up, okay, fantastic, we'll take him. But if he didn't, I'm not going to be crying over it. You know, I'm not going to be like, oh, why haven't we gone for Conor Gallagher? Like, you know, he's this, he's that. Do you know what I mean? So, yeah, I think he'd offer a lot for Ange because of the way that we play and the fact that we like to get after teams high up the pitch. So I think from that point of view, he'd do all right. But it feels like with Gallagher that Spurs were hearing that he might be available this year because he's got 1 year left on his contract, and so he's a little bit more gettable. But now we're getting to that point where the club are trying to act upon it. But then it's like the goalposts have shifted a little bit, and it's all of a sudden, well, Gallagher's kind of I wouldn't say he's the type of player to kick up a fuss, but it's like, no, he doesn't really want to move. He's happy at Chelsea. He'd rather, you know, renegotiate a contract with Chelsea than angle for a move. I think Villa are being linked with him. Atletico Madrid, there was rumours there, but I don't think they're going anywhere. So it's an interesting one from a Chelsea perspective as well. Obviously, they need some funds for PSR and FFP. They're not really going to want to deal with us because they hate us and we hate them. So yeah, the Gallagher situation, it feels really messy for me. Like it just feels messy. But like I say, if he turned up in a Spurs shirt, I'm not gonna overly complain. You know, England international, homegrown quota ticks a few boxes from that point of view. And I actually think if you look at when Chelsea were playing really well, yes, you could look at Cole Palmer, but I think a lot of it also came through Conor Gallagher as well last year. Like when between in particular Gallagher and Palmer, when those two were really on it, I think you saw a different Chelsea team. Whereas if they had a little bit of an off day, then Chelsea were really bad. And that's my view on that one. Sorry for going on a bit.
No, mate, we like it. Well, that's why I ask you about, you know, because I know obviously your background. I like to hear like a kind of tactical, in-depth kind of reason to why. But so Callum, clearly not a Conor Gallagher fan, no. But do you think it kind of swings on outgoings like maybe Højbjerg, for example? Obviously, we touched upon that. He's had quite a successful tournament. Would you like to see Højbjerg come back and stay, or would you like to see him possibly replaced with a Conor Gallagher?
Højbjerg's always been different for Denmark because they give him a free role to play. He's allowed to play more on the front foot than where he plays for club level. So, I mean, we have tried it. He wasn't that bad under Conte. He did have, I think, about 7 to 10 goal involvements under Conte. He did do a little bit, but Højbjerg for me, he's a good professional, but his head's not wanting to be at Spurs. Ange doesn't want him at Spurs. So I'd say thank you very much. Good luck, and you can have your move that you've been angling for the last 2 years. Going back to the Gallagher one, it's a difficult one because Gallagher by trade is a number 8. He's sort of your box to box. He's not your defensive cover or anything like that. And when you look at the players we've got in that position at the moment, you've got, or who can play in that position, you've got Bentancur, Basuma, Sarr, Skip, Højbjerg, Lucas Bergvall now coming in as well. So even if Højbjerg goes, you've still got 5 people in there to play 2 positions or even 1, because then you've still got Maddison, who would realistically play. If we're playing a 3-man midfield, you've got your 6, you've got your 8, you've got your 10, but realistically Ange's 10s are more like 8s. They both drift up and down in midfield. They're meant to pick up deep and progress forward and make stuff happen. So I think Palmer coming in would just... There are players in the academy and there are players in the existing squad that can't even get enough game time. So if Gallagher came in, I don't think he would necessarily be a guaranteed starter or address a problem when we have more pressing issues, to say the least. He can't play as a 6. Hardly any of our players can play as 6s, to be honest. Højbjerg's the closest thing, but he's not mobile enough for an Ange 6. Skip's not not that mobile either. Basuma can't play there. Basuma is probably a dead man walking at the moment in some Spurs fans' eyes, to be honest, after how his season was. So the closest one you could do is Bentancur, but he's still never recovered. So I think if you've got the money available, like Wes said, Palmer's flounced about. He's gone. Maybe I want to go. Maybe I don't. I think ultimately he's a Chelsea youth product. He lives in Surrey. He's come all the way through their youth academy. He wants to stay at Chelsea, and it's one of them where do you go and buy a player that has no affiliation or loyalty to any other teams, or do you spend 50 million and think that okay, Gallagher's probably got his head somewhere else still, but we just spent 50 million on him. To be honest, I think it's too high a risk. But if you're going to back Ange and Ange wants him, then it's whether Spurs actually take a punt on it or not.
Yeah, it's interesting that the one name you mentioned, and I'll come to you, Wes. Obviously, Lucas Bergwall. What is his best position? Is he this type of player? Is he someone? Because there's talks now that he's going to be coming straight into the first team squad, like just chucked straight into the fire.
Yeah, I think. I mean, I don't know if anybody watched the game, the later game last night with Ange on punditry duty, and he was saying how he's loving the fact that there's loads of young players that are literally just sort of almost grabbing the ball by the horns and going for it. And I think that's then going, you hear, as you mentioned there, Wynnie, about Bergvall coming straight in. He's going, right, I've seen enough of him. Give him a chance. And if he's sink or swim time, you're either going to grab the ball by the horns and go for it, or, you're going to be a sort of a bit part player. You've got your sort of dream move at sort of 18, and then we won't see too much of him, and then all of a sudden he'll be 23, 24, and we're shipping him off again potentially. But I think for me, Bergvall, from what I've seen, and I must admit I haven't seen too much of him, I would probably say he's more going to be likely to be competing with Maddison for that role that Maddison plays. It's a bit of a weird one. For because you would argue Maddison is an orthodox sort of number 10. He's a real out and out number 10, but sometimes the positions that he takes up, sometimes he's picking the ball up off the back four and dropping really, really deep and then trying to feed balls through. So I think Bergvall has, from what I have seen on the clips, especially on like Twitter and stuff like that, he looks the part as well. Forget his footballing ability. He looks the part. Do you know what I mean? So,
he is a unit at 18. Apparently, he's like 6'4". He's put on a lot of weight. If you ever hear what his old sporting and youth director had to say about him, he's put on a lot of weight over the last 6 months, but all pure muscle and all that. I mean, so he's definitely got the build for the Premier League. It's just whether he can drop straight in or whether he does need that adaptation period. But everyone's saying he's one of the more likely ones to be able to do it compared to other actually older players to come in. I mean, he's complete opposite to Brian Hill when he came in. Brian Hill's quite skinny, quite agile, but very lightweight on the ball. Bergvall, no, literally a tank and a unit put together. If you tell him to run, he'll run, but he actually has a lot of good skills and footwork to go along with it as well.
Yeah, no, I think he he's definitely someone who I'm excited by personally, and like just touching on what you said, Wes, I did see that with Ange, and he did say about there being really exciting young players in this tournament, and it definitely seems like, as you say, that he's seen Bergvall and gone, do you know what? I like what he's about, and let's just chuck him straight in there and just see how he adapts to the Premier League. And again, like Callum said, he looks like someone who definitely can adapt. Just touching on what David has put there, because it's quite interesting. That's a good segue into what I was going to go into next. Obviously, we're moving just a little bit further forward up the pitch. And obviously that is Chiesa, Nico Williams. I've seen Jonathan David. Are these the type of players, Callum, that you think are good links for Spurs? We definitely need another wide player, don't we?
Yeah, they're definitely in that mould that Ange likes. He likes free-flowing, creative wingers. He's played like it all the way through Celtic, Yokohama. He liked to do it with the Australian youth team as well. So he definitely wants that flair player about it. It's not always about a striker. It's about creating from the wings and being strong. So yeah, these links, Nico Williams, very good option. Got a release clause of 43 million, I believe. The only problem is it's wages for him. Apparently, if he's going to move, it's going to be 250 grand, 300 grand plus, because he's already on a good contract at Bilbao. So that one I can't see really happening. But
Can you not see us paying those wages?
Well, considering Son's only on 200 grand,
Yeah.
I don't think Nico Williams is anywhere near the end product that probably would justify them wages, to be honest. And it's only because he's a boyhood Bilbao player, and because his brother plays there, there's a family legacy they've got going on. That's why they keep hiking his contract up every 6 months to try and see who they can keep hold of. But I think Jonathan David's an interesting one because he has been linked quite a bit as well, and he.
I think we've lost him.
Am I back? Am I not? What's going on?
I think Callum's froze.
Am I still here? That's the most important thing.
Yeah,
Am I still
you
good?
are.
Because everyone froze on mine. I was thinking, what the fuck have I done?
Yeah, no, you're all good. I think Callum's just forgot to pay his internet bill for this week.
Oh Jesus! So out of those three, so let's say Williams, Chiesa, and Jonathan David. Are you excited by any of those? Would you like to see them in a Tottenham shirt?
Yeah, I think I watched a little bit of Italy, I have to say. I think probably Caliafori, though, for Italy's probably been the more, and Barella have been the two more standouts for me when I've watched Italy and whatnot. So, but yeah, I think Chiesa's looked good. Yeah, kind of when you're watching him, I'm a little bit surprised that perhaps Juventus want to let him go. I think it'd definitely be a really, really good option. Jonathan David, again, as Callum I think was trying to say, it's an interesting one because he's been linked before, and my thing why I find it even more interesting is he can operate across that front line. So he can operate so he can operate on both wings, he can operate in a sort of 10 position as well. I think he's not the out and out number 9, I don't think, for Lille, but his still gets good sort of goal contribution in terms of goals and assists. Like his attacking stats and his attacking numbers are pretty decent. So it just depends on what type of profile we're going for towards that top end of the pitch. Like, are we going for those that can play across the front line? Are we going for an out and out like brick house number 9 and then some rapid wingers either side of him as well? So yeah, Jonathan David I think would be a smarter signing in the sense that because he can cover multiple positions. But yeah, I think Chiesa I wouldn't be opposed to. Nico Williams, as I mentioned earlier, been brilliant for Spain. But yeah, I think the wages will be a massive thing because obviously Bilbao only signed Basque players, so what would effectively be their transfer budget they can put straight into their wages, and I think that's why they can pay really, really well. So I don't think, as much as I think I would probably prefer Nico Williams, I just can't see it happening. As for the reason that we mentioned, which was the wages.
Yeah, I think the thing is, I look at it now, and obviously we've got Sonny, who is obviously dependable, but it's coming to the end of his kind of career. We kind of need someone. He's back. He's made it.
Fucking Wi-Fi. My Wi-Fi literally.
He's just been on the phone to BT.
I've just got redirected around half the world for them to say no.
Yeah. You don't pay your bill, Callum, you could not have internet. Simple as that.
Oh, don't.
So this is the one for me now. I don't understand why we don't just go and do it straight away, and that is obviously Eze. For me, this player he just looks like he was born to play for Spurs, and I know that's difficult to kind of convey, but that's the only way I can say he just looks the part. The flair, everything he has, his ability in that final third to just jink and take a man on. And we've obviously seen his goal scoring abilities for Palace as well. Callum, seeing as though you're back with us now and you've paid your bill, do you think we pay the release clause or the supposed release clause? Because I've also heard it's now a gentleman's agreement or a release clause. It's up for debate which one it is. Do you think we do it and just go all out for Eze? We've got to, surely.
He definitely ticks a few boxes. Let's put it that way. He ticks the
Ticks
home
them
run
all, in my
quota.
opinion.
Yeah, he has, like you said, he's got all the attributes to go into our midfield. He can be an attacking option. He can be a midfield option.
Yeah.
This gentleman's agreement, though, the release clause, that's where my concern lies, because if they've already sold Elise to Bayern,
Yeah, that's a big thing, isn't it? Yeah.
That was the proven release clause. Now, if you're into gentleman's agreement, I mean, if you guys remember when Arsenal tried to get Luis Suarez from Liverpool, it turns out that that release clause turned out to be a gentleman's agreement that was written on a bit of fag paper and then posted for a letterbox that turned out to be absolute crap. And if Palace have lost Elise, then they're not going to want to lose someone like Eze as well. If there was a release clause, they don't have a choice.
Exactly.
If it gets triggered, then it means it at least allows the triggering club to have permission to speak to a player. It doesn't mean they're guaranteed to go, but it means that you've got that to speak of. But then it's about it's about Levy. If we're going to go for him, and if there is a release clause, it's about paying the money for it. It's not, oh yeah, we'll pay you the money, but we'll pay it over 20 seasons, and it's going to be based on when we get money from the new hotel that's not even built, and it's when we finally knock down that council estate down the high road, and we now get rental income coming in here. So we'll give you a fiver, and then we're going to then give you a 10 pence instalment plan each week. It's if Palace want the money and you desperately want Eze, then you pay the money.
It's simple, isn't it? There's no two ways about it.
But it's coming down to, like David Clark said here, if there's no release clause, then Palace are going to want whatever money they want. And if they don't want to sell, they don't want to sell, because they're not going to lose more than one player unless they have to out of that. There's plenty of other sellable assets in the Palace squad that will go over Gahey, Eze, Mitchell, Mateta. And if there is the release clause, then happy days. If not, then we ain't got a chance in hell, especially with someone like Levy in charge.
Yeah, and I think Wes, I think that's what it comes down to. It seems that's what it's going to be. Is obviously if there is a release clause. For me, if there's no release clause, they get rid of him. It's as simple as that. But if there is, it seems as though it's going to be the sticking point of they want a hell of a lot of money up front, and that isn't the way Tottenham typically operate. But do you think we would do it for someone like Eze?
No, if I'm being honest. I think he's a player that we would all love to see in a Spurs shirt. The annoying thing for me is when I look at players like three of the Palace lads, you look at Eze, Elise, and Wharton. We could have had Elise for 15, we could have had Eze for 20, and we could have had Wharton for 18. Now, if if we were to go in for him again, Elise, you're looking at least 50, 60. Yeah. You're looking at potentially 60 upwards for Eze, and you're looking at least 50 for Wharton, because I think his performances in the second half of the season have warranted that. But it's just so annoying where I think previously our recruitment team have just been so reactive and not proactive to getting players when we could have had them at a snip of what we're going to pay now. I think, Eze would be an unbelievable sign-in. I think he definitely adds to the team and the squad depth. He's then challenge, and it's a real threat to Maddison's position. So all of a sudden you might see a better James Maddison, because he knows he has to perform, because if he doesn't, then he's going to lose his place to Eze. Excuse me. So yeah, I think if there is the release clause, I think Spurs would potentially entertain it. Although, again, a little bit similar to Gallagher, it felt like we were going to go in for Eze, and it felt like from a Palace perspective, they were going to either lose Eze or Elise, but not both. Yeah. Dortmund are quite good at that. They seem to sell one superstar, and then that's it. and it kind of felt like that with Palace. They're either going to sell Elise or Eze, and it looks like they're going to sell Elise. So if that's the case, I can't see Eze moving in this window. So it's probably one of them where another year, and then Eze might be gettable. But then they're either going to have a massive fire sale because they need to comply with FFP and PSR, or they're going to really hold fire to kind of selling that one superstar, Palace, and they're well within their right to do so. But yeah, I'd love to see Eze at the Lane 100%, because he, as you said earlier, Wynnie, he was born to play for Spurs.
It did. I don't know why I think that, but it just, like, I've seen people make these edits, and I've seen him in a Spurs shirt, and I'm like, that was meant to be. Do you know what I mean? He just looks like he should be wearing that lily white shirt. But I think for me, like, go on.
There's a difficulty as well. If you guys remember back to the Pedro Porro deal, about 2 seasons ago, Spurs don't trigger release clauses. They offer a higher fee, if anything, or just below it, but with conditions that are near impossible to meet. So they get a longer payment plan, or they get a better value deal for them. I mean, what was it that sealed the Porro deal? It was reducing Marcus Edwards' sell-on clause by 15%, something like that. And when you think with Eze, he does have good links to Spurs, because he's is it CAA agency base?
So he's always at Spurs. Whenever I see it, like, on Twitter, he's always in boxes at Spurs. Like, it seems like his family have got affiliations of the club or something.
Base have a box there that they've bought the rights to off the club as part of that. So they've actually got a box there for them. That's why you saw Jimenez early this season, Gastrada, Gertruida as well, Eze, different people like that. So that's why you do see him pop up at Spurs, because they've literally got a hospitality day out when they're not playing. They can go down there for it. But if Eze does have that clause, then happy days. If Spurs trigger it, then we go for it. But if they don't, if Elise is going to go, and it's like Wes said, it was either going to be one or the other. It's not going to be both. And another thing that we're competing against is the longer that Eze stays at the Euros, it means that we don't have sort of that feasibility around it to get him back in country, get everything done. It just drags it out longer. So these competitions are doing us no good, to be honest. Andrew said he wanted people in before pre-season. Who have we got? Timo Werner on his extension, where we're paying all his wages but no loan fee.
Yeah, but I mean, like, surely deals can be done with the player away at a tournament. Surely it's been done before. Do you know what I mean? Like,
it can be done, but it's a lot more difficult, because you're not speaking directly with the player. You're dealing with the agents. You're not getting players to the training grounds, because hardly any national teams are going to want to release the players to come and do bits that you want. So even if they are a player for you, they won't be available until 6 weeks' time. So just say if we did get an Eze now, we wouldn't have him for the course of the Euros, plus then 3 weeks after that. So he'll miss the whole of pre-season, and you'll just be back to square one with it. You won't have a player available to you. And all Levy will do, like David Clark has said, he'll just talk to Palace, go through his intermediaries and go, sorry, we can't do it now. Turns out that clause that we thought was there was actually written on the back of a fag box, and that fag box got washed away in the one bit of rain we've had in the last 3 weeks, or something like that.
No, it's definitely for me. I would be concentrating on this Eze deal more than I would be Conor Gallagher, because obviously they're the two kind of main deals going around at Spurs at the moment in terms of incomings. For me personally, I just want to touch upon, I think we need, and I don't think it typically is an Ange thing, but I think we're literally crying out for, I don't want to say a Harry Kane replacement, but I mean that central focal point up front. Get the ball to him. He'll hold the ball up. He'll bring people into play. Now, some of the names we've been linked with, let's just say, like Ivan Toney, Tammy Abraham, I've seen also, Solanke. Now, Wes, do you think they're any better than Richarlison?
No, no chance, mate. I've heard Tony, I've heard Solanke, I've heard all of these names, Gyökeres, Jimenez, the lot, and none of them really kind of excite me. Like, I'm not going, yeah, that's the one, bang. You know, I think Gyökeres, for me, purple patch was his season last year.
Yeah.
Yes, I know he bagged a lot of goals for Coventry, and then has made his big jump to Sporting, and he's done well there. But are you going to take a striker that's been in form for, say, 2 years when he's been playing, you know, for 5? So 2 out of 5 isn't, you know, overly great.
Vincent Janssen, if I'm honest.
Yeah, yeah. Jimenez, have to profess, don't know too much about, but I think he's just one that keeps getting thrown about. He's probably Leandro Damião, to be honest, the Mexican version. Tony for me, no. It's just something about him, and I actually don't think he's as great as everybody makes out.
He's a tosser.
Ivan Toney. Listen, look, I'm saying this as him, my opinion of him as a footballer. My opinion of him as a person, if I was to ever meet him, could be completely different. But my opinion of him as a footballer, like I said, I don't think he's as great as everybody makes out. Tammy Abraham, I think, is a non-starter. Solanke, again, he hit a little bit of form for Bournemouth, but then that was it. You know, for me, if he was any good, he'd either still be at Chelsea, because he was the best youth striker that the country's probably ever seen when he was coming through, or he'd still be at Liverpool after he got his move there. The interesting striker for me, and I actually think he would suit us really well. I'm probably gonna get battered for it, but I'm gonna live with it. I'm gonna live with it. Is Lukaku. I 100%. I was watching him last night, and the way he was holding the ball, I know he's got Doku and Bakayoko, I think it is, either side of him, who are absolute speedsters. But the way he played last night, I'm just thinking, mate, if Andrew's watching, someone just get a scout report on Lukaku. The thing for me is, ex-Chelsea, 31 years of age, so we're probably not going to have him for too long. He's on an absolute shed load at Chelsea as well. He's probably on upwards of 300 grand a week, so we've probably got no hope. But I think that Lukaku, for me, I think would do really, really well. He's good with his back to goal, likes to get people involved in play. I think the amount of chances that we create, I know he's one of them that does miss some absolute shockers, but I'm hoping surely not. Like with the chances and the quality of chances we create, he's not gonna miss. He's not gonna miss any of those. But yeah, I kind of said it to my dad a little while ago. I was like, do you know who we actually need? Romelu Lukaku. And he looked at me like really confused. And then I explained why, and then I think I got him on board with it.
Do you know what? I think it's really, really interesting you say that, because you know, a couple of pods back, I remember when it got the news really kind of got released that Lukaku has like some kind of like almost like a release clause, I believe, and I think it was minimal. I think it was something like 20. It might have been around about
34 million, I think, Wynnie.
Yeah. So for me, like, I was a huge advocate for this. I put it to everyone on the pod, and I was like, look, I'm going to lead with this. I think we should sign Romelu Lukaku for that release clause, because just echoing what you said, I think he would. Yeah, okay, he misses chances. We've got Richarlison. Some Spurs fans like Richarlison. How many chances does he need to put to put one away? It's the same scenario, but they're completely different players in the sense that Lukaku, as you say, can play so well with his back to goal. We don't have, in my opinion, anyone that can do that. And that's massive. With, you know, the balls playing through the lines from our defence. You know, like Maddison will get the ball on the half turn and he'll ping a little ball in between the lines, but nobody's there to hold it up. Richarlison can do it. I've seen him do it, but I don't think he's got kind of what it takes to do that. But I just think, Callum, would you take a punt on Lukaku?
It's an interesting one. I mean, based on how long Lukaku's been actually in England, I mean, obviously he was with Chelsea, weren't he, for his youth career, I believe. Does he class as homegrown, or was he not here at the time?
I don't know if he would, because I think Chelsea bought him at 18, but then I think farmed him out a few times. But if he does class as homegrown, and again, it's another reason
Even
for
more
me
so,
why
yeah.
we
It's
should
an
be all
incentive.
over him.
It
Yeah,
is an incentive. But I mean, Lukaku's one of them big, bulky strikers that no one's going to knock you off the ball. Or if you do knock him off the ball, he's taking the man with him, sort of
Yeah.
thing. So, yeah, I think he's proven in the Premier League. Yeah, the Chelsea time didn't go well, but we could say that the same for Salah, Kevin De Bruyne, Schürrle, all of them players that went out that same time under Mourinho, and that bastard always seems to rear his head back up somewhere or another. But no, I mean, Lukaku, a good option. He's got different stuff that we've not got in the squad. Like you say,
Yeah.
he can take his man on, he can hold up play. He does, he's scary when he's running at you, to be honest. He is a unit and a half. So yeah, there's a lot worse people out there to take a punt on. But I mean, obviously the names that Wes went through, Gyökeres, I mean, I still think he's a decent option. But Jimenez, well, we've got Troy Parrott, who's just coming back off loan, who's done literally just 5 less goals than him. So if you're going to take a punt, you take a punt on a homegrown player. But my idea would be a more modern sort of pressing forward, like an Ollie Watkins. If we could get Ollie Watkins, that would be an outstanding signing, but we know it's never going to happen. So
We linked with him when he before he went to Villa, and another one that we kind of probably just let go.
yeah, another one that we didn't want to pay is it 30 million or 25, something like that Villa paid for him from Brentford.
Yeah, it was something stupid.
It's one of them where you just look at all the players that we've gone for and they all fit a profile of player, but oh no, we don't think they're really worth that money. Well, yeah, they are. It's just that Spurs don't want to cough up said money for them. But Lukaku's probably got to be one of the most prime examples of an Ange type forward, to be honest. I mean, apart from who was the guy that he had at Celtic, the Japanese striker? Diogo. And I think within reason, Lukaku's quite similar to him in the way that he plays. To be honest, it's the stature.
Yeah, because Lukaku's 6'4", built like a brick shithouse, and Kyogo's 5'3" and absolutely rapid.
No, but they've got the same profile within reason. To be honest, mate, it's that being able to pick up the ball and run with it and go with it. That's the sort of Ange mould that he wants in a forward. He doesn't. It's so difficult when you think about what Spurs want. And like David Clark said, if someone mentions a forward that could play anywhere across the front line, he'll scream. Well, that's the problem that Spurs like these utility players, don't they, that can play anywhere. I mean, one player that screams out for me, and I know we've already done midfield and back line, but someone like Archie Gray, who can do a bit of everything.
Yes.
The geezer at Leeds, centre back, right back, can play as a 6, an 8. He can even play as a bloody 10 if you want him to, and he can play as a right back. So, I mean, that gives you the options, and it's something like that where I think Spurs are going to be shopping in that market this year, aren't they? People who can fit so many different profiles and positions that if we buy someone who can play a centre back and left back, there you go. You've got one player instead of buying 2. You've got a striker who can maybe play either wing and as a 10. There we go. We don't need a striker. We'll just go and buy him. Instead, someone like
a mid that can go in goal. Brilliant. Perfect. Just what we want.
Fuck it. We'll go and buy Harry Kane. He can play in goal and he can play up top. There you go.
He definitely can't play in goal. We all seen that game.
But the thing is, when you look at it, that's what a lot of teams are looking at now, isn't it? Like when City got Gvardiol, they got him as a centre-back. He started playing as left-back. By the end of last season, he was playing as a left mid or a 10. And he came away with ridiculous stats that were better than half the wingers in the Premier League and all that, just based off 7 games. So that's the sort of market we're going to be in. And if we can get Lukaku for 30 million, it's just the wages that's going to. He would definitely have to take a wage cut because Spurs aren't going to break their wage budget for Lukaku at 31.
And I think obviously we've talked about his qualities and also kind of his failings in terms of in front of goal. But I mean, VAR aside, he'd probably be top goal scorer in this Euros. You know what I mean? Like, in all seriousness, he's put the ball away well. And that's something that, like, I just think we just missed that number 9. We're screaming out for someone. You know what I mean? The amount of times that we've had the opportunity to put the ball into a box, we've got into this advanced position, and someone's ready to whip a ball in, but there's no fucker there to get on the end of it. And I think that's really, really something that we miss.
I wish Olivier Giroud was like 15 years younger, because he would be perfect. And I also think he's probably the most underrated striker of his generation, Olivier Giroud. Like, everybody that's played with him has just said like how good he is and how much he helps those around him. Because again, ball into him, it's going to stick. Little flicks around the corner, and then all of a sudden you're in behind. Really good as well in terms of getting across the front post and the near post, and little flicked finishes. So again, real pity that he's like now 37, 38 as opposed to 23.
But he's still a good-looking bloke. We'll give him that.
If you guys remember though, in the Champions League final run, Loriente, he weren't a great striker, but he was there. Yeah. He did a job. If you put a ball on his head, it was either going wayward of the post or actually going in off the post.
Or his hip.
Well, yeah, there was that. But if you think the amount of crosses we put into the box, and like you guys said, it was either waiting for a tap in or hit over the head, and no one can knock it into the box or into the goal because Son's too small, Richarlison's out injured, Werner can't finish his breakfast or dinner, and Brennan Johnson's the most frustrating one of the lot. The amount of prime opportunities he had for them goals, and it just shows he is a inverted forward and not a striker. And someone like Loriente for overhead stuff, Giroud for the across the floor stuff. If you could find someone of that ilk, and potentially that could be Lukaku. He's got the height, but he can also do tap-ins as well. You're not too bad.
Yeah, who knows? Maybe the Spurs will surprise us, and we'll kind of trigger this. All I keep seeing is just release clause, trigger this, trigger that. Do you know what I mean? It's not how Spurs operate, but maybe we will. But in the interest of trying not to bore everyone to sleep, I feel like we've been talking a hell of a lot. But I think it's definitely an interesting summer ahead for Spurs. And obviously, there's nothing really concrete at the moment, but hopefully in the next couple of weeks, maybe post-Euros, we'll see a lot of kind of ingoings and outgoings. But obviously, I just want to thank everyone for watching, everyone in the comments, particularly David, who's just been absolutely... I bet your fingers must be tired, mate, because you have been typing like a trooper in those comments. But yeah, no, obviously, we appreciate everyone. But just make sure you do like and subscribe, because it does go a huge, huge way for us. Callum, where can everyone find you, mate?
As always, mate, Callum Stubbs 97 on Twitter. I am trying to keep off Twitter as much as I can, away from transfer news, because it's just doing my head in. But no, if people want to find me, go and hit me up on there, and I'm sure I can have a debate with someone over some useless bollocks as usual.
Love that. You do normally chat bollocks, to be fair, so we'll give you that one.
Says you, mate. Says you. You chat more shit than me.
I am the king of waffle. How can everyone find you, mate? Have you got anything interesting on the horizon?
Got loads, to be fair. Twitter's at Wezo10. Similar to Callum, try and keep off Twitter as much as I can, so I'll end up getting cancelled, I think, or banned or whatever, because someone will ride me up the wrong way or whatever. Instagram's at Wezo32, usually at a Spurs game. So me coming on here this coming season is going to be interesting. We've got a lot of Sunday games, but I'll try my best to get on when I can. Got loads and loads of stuff happening with my football coaching and with Kofa. So we've got football camps coming up for the summer holidays. We've got our new girls private setup that we're going to be starting in Milton Keynes, as well as our boys setup that we've currently got as well. So lots and lots of things happening. So type my name in somewhere on a social media platform and you'll find me, I'm sure.
Absolutely. Everyone, if you've got kids that are interested in football, 100% go and type Wes's name in somewhere and you will find something regarding that. So definitely go and do that if you are interested. Obviously, I just want to point out there, Jay. Sorry, go on.
This week, mate? FIFA
obviously, the stream last Tuesday was fine. And I did say at the end of it, of course, we'll be back next Tuesday, obviously forgetting that England play. So it's not going to be Tuesday because as much as I love doing it, I am not going to miss England's game to do that. So I will obviously, when Luke decides to turn up again, we don't know where he is. We don't know how he is. He hasn't really contacted us, to be honest. So
I heard he was passed out on a bench somewhere up north. Last I heard,
Yeah.
he was covered in Stella. He
Yeah.
was in a call box and he had been arrested.
I've seen that picture doing the rounds actually on Twitter, to be fair. But when he finally decides to emerge from his slump wherever he is, I'll kind of talk to him and work out what day is best this week to do it. So obviously, yeah, Jay, keep your eyes peeled, mate. We'll get it posted on the socials as soon as we know. But as we always say on this channel, it is a massive come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you Spurs.